Yo, what is going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of For the People podcast on a Monday. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. I think we should be good. It looks like the sound is all good on my end. We are live right now on Twitter, on Rockfin, on YouTube, on Rumble, hopefully. Y'all know Rumble's always a challenge. Y'all make sure y'all like this video. Make sure you share this video. Y'all let me know if you can hear me okay. Can't post comments. I see we're good on Rockfin. We good YouTube people? I hope so. We got a great show for you guys today. I'm going to try to get through all of these topics because obviously, as you all know, since the election has happened, there's almost too much to get through. It's almost too much stuff to get through, honestly. So I'm going to try. What we can't get through today, we're going to try to get through on Thursday. 1 second. Oh, no. That should be good. Anyway. Charlie Marks, what's going on? Is that your real name or is that like just a coincidence? Like, is that like a play on words? Like, you're Marxist, so you name yourself Charlie Marks? If so, I feel you. Like, share. We got a good show for you guys today. We're going to be talking about the Democrats planning openly their own January 6th event on January 18th. We're going to talk about Kamala Harris and her $20 million worth of debt that she's accrued. Yep. Somehow she blew through $1 billion and still ended up 20 million in the hole. Neo-progressives, yeah, their audiences are leaving in droves. Shout out to everybody who's stuck around since the election, since we weren't lying to you dead to your face. We're going to talk about some of these creators and these pundits claiming that the election results are actually a result of white supremacy, talking about some of the blame that's been laid at the feet of Black people. Some white, we're basically going to break down how all the excuses that are being given by the Democratic Party are actually not lining up with their own logic and with their own history. So we're going to break that down. We're going to talk about how Mike Pompeo has been booted before he was even invited into the door, which is kind of surprising. But unfortunately, a Zionist puppet has been nominated for ambassador. And we're also going to talk about Antifa showing up out of nowhere. And also, apparently, there are some significant others, some women out there. You know, they're liberal and, they're white that are trying to kill their significant others. Yeah. For voting for Trump, which is absolute insanity. So like I said, we got a great show for you guys today. We're going to get started with this Kamala debt situation because sweet baby Jesus. A little upset when I read this. 1 second. Let me pull it up for you guys. Pretty sure everybody can see this. Yep, y'all reading that correctly. Is Kamala Harris's campaign $20 million in debt? What we know. Let me zoom in a little bit for you guys so you can read it. Kamala Harris, this is from Newsweek. Kamala Harris's presidential campaign ended the 2024 White House contest at least $20 million in debt, according to Politico's California bureau chief, Christopher Cadelago. Cadelago made the claim on X, formerly Twitter, noting Harris's team had $118 million at the bank as recently as October 16th. Donald Trump was elected to the White House for a second time, with the Associated Press reporting that he had secured 295 electoral votes as of 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, 25 more than he needed for victory. As you all know, I think he finished with 312. According to the AP, Trump is also ahead in the battleground states of Nevada and Arizona, which have 17 electoral votes on the line between them. He is on track to win the popular vote, which you all know he already did. In the post on Wednesday, Catalogo wrote, Kamala Harris' campaign ended with at least $20 million in debt per two sources familiar. Harris raised over $1 billion and had $118 million in the bank as of October 16th. Now, Newsweek has said it is not independently confirmed that a debt of $20 million exists. The Harris Walz campaign was contacted for comment via email on Thursday outside of regular office hours. The claim was repeated by Breitbart's Matthew Bohl, who cited an anonymous campaign staffer. The Washington bureau chief for Breitbart News wrote that $20 million debt thing is real. The Harris campaign's deputy campaign manager, Robert Flaherty, this staffer said, is currently shopping around the Kamala fundraising email list to anyone who wants to try and raise money back. This includes campaigns and outside groups. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I $20 million in debt after $1 billion. Y'all did it again? Y'all did this shit again. $1 billion. How do you raise $1 billion? And this isn't like Hillary Clinton's campaign. Hillary was the nominee from the jump, right? They knew she was a nominee after she cheated Bernie Sanders. And then in the coming months, after a campaign had been mounted for her, she had raised a total of $1 billion, a little bit more than $1 billion. I believe it was a little bit less than $1 billion. I think like 900 something million. So when she burned through it, not campaigning, that was bad enough. Kamala raised $1 billion in a couple of months. And then you end up in debt and you lost worse than Hillary Clinton. So we know that they have been fishing around for somebody to help out with this debt, because somebody actually put out a video with their suggestions on what we should do to help them. Mind you, I'm not inclined to help shit. I'm not inclined. If I should be so inclined, and I am not inclined, but this is what one of her supporters is saying.
I don't know if y'all heard, but Kamala Harris is $20 million in debt. She raised $1 billion in her campaign, yet she still finds herself with $20 million in debt. Donald Trump is offering to help pay down that debt because his campaign had money left over. That's what he is intending to do. Now, I do have a few other...
First of all, if that's true, if Trump is really offering to pay down Kamala's $20 million in debt after I don't know how else to put it, just the bullshit, just everything that she put him through, the way she dragged his name through the mud, his family through the mud, his supporters through the mud over the last, not just the campaign, but really the last several years. That is the most petty. That is exactly what I would do, actually. If somebody had dragged me through the mud and then I had beaten them senseless, and then I found out they were in debt, I would take care of their family. That's like some Drake shit, honestly. That's something Drake would do. Drake would pay a baby mama's bills after she broke up with you type shit. Yeah, I would do that. I'm not kind of petty, because that's petty. But it also, on a serious note, it speaks a lot more towards it speaks a lot more towards Trump and his desire to return to some sense of normalcy and togetherness. And it also speaks to the fact that Kamala and Biden and the Democrats are just completely different in that regard. They not only would not help bring down that debt, but as we already know, they would actually try to put him in further debt by, I don't know, dragging his name through the dirt, putting him in legal case after legal case after legal case. I mean, he's a billionaire, so he doesn't need the money, and he has people on retainer for that type of stuff. However, it's a stark contrast. It's a very stark contrast. I don't know if that's true, but if it's true, I would. So the pettiness in me would do it, but to actually save her, no. But I would almost be kind of impressed, because I wouldn't expect that from Trump.
Other options that might be helpful for Kamala during this difficult time?
It's not difficult for her. She's a millionaire. So let's just be clear about that.
Option 1, we can send her $750. Option 2, we can collect all the money possible to help. and then send it to Ukraine. And my last option would just be, hear her out, see what she has to say about how this could have possibly happened, the mismanage of all this money. And then just tell her how we grew up in a middle-class family and we really liked the lawns of all of our neighbors. That might be helpful. And an honorable mention could just possibly ask Oprah Winfrey or Taylor Swift to pay for it. What do you guys?
Yeah, I like those options. Except for that $750, I wouldn't say that. Obviously, she's being ironic. But in all seriousness, that's kind of what she told the American people to do. Because it's, what is it? Everybody, well, before it was like everybody's $1,000 away from being homeless. It's like, or the majority of the country's like $1,000 away from being homeless. And now it's actually like worse than that. And after we told her over and over and over again, this economy is not working for the American people. First, she told us it was gaslighting to the highest degree. I've never experienced gaslighting as much as I experienced it during this campaign. The Obama campaign was interesting because everything was kind of like, some people felt like they were better off. Other people felt like they weren't. It was a very confusing time. And so we knew that it could be better, but Hillary Clinton didn't have to pretend as if Obama did a perfect job, but at least superficially, she could openly support some of the policies that he tried to enact. Because like people didn't know just how horrible the ACA was, for example, until it was kind of like too late, unfortunately. So, but in this situation, we knew exactly how bad Biden was. We knew exactly how bad Kamala was. We knew how he was driving the debt up. The debt is horrible. The Inflation Reduction Act that did the opposite. I don't want to hear nothing about no damn stock markets. I don't want to hear nothing about that. I don't want to hear nothing about no unemployment numbers that turned out to be cooked up. Literally, they just made the shit up. And that's in one instance. In another instance, it was federal jobs. Like, so they said that the unemployment was down, but it was just the federal government giving away jobs to make it look like the unemployment was improving in the private sector. And it wasn't the case. So like we were gaslighted to the umpteenth degree. And that's basically what Kamala did. Kamala was like, hey, I know y'all are hurting and suffering. And I'm telling y'all there's really not a problem. But can y'all give me $750? So I can give it to Beyonce? So I can give it to Taylor Swift? Do y'all know some of the shit she was doing with her money? She paid, in one instance, like $400,000 to fly a banner during an NFL game. That's like one example. She blew through $400,000 to fly a banner during an NFL game. Do y'all understand? Like that right there. Not saying that that's dumb in and of itself, but when you combine it with the fact that she also was giving millions to celebrities. She was also spending money on media, like not actual, like I'm going to campaign and I'm showing my campaign events. And like, there's a way to do media in politics. And it's like, I'm just throwing some commercials on the air during prime hours and paying for it because that's what they do. There's like a whole rule for that when it comes to the mainstream media, like a whole law for it. But yeah, that's what she was doing. She was just paying millions of dollars, literally millions and millions upon more millions just to show ads. Not ads for policies, because I believe that it could be worth it, right? As we say in Brazil, pode valer a pena. It could be worth it if you were advertising policies. That's not what she was doing. She blew through $1 billion telling Palestinians to shut up and telling us everything was good. That y'all didn't experience the inflation, that your energy bills aren't higher, that gas isn't higher. She blew through $1 billion to tell you you all are better off and that's why you should vote for her or you're racist. And then paying black celebrities a bunch of money and paying TikTok influencers millions of dollars to tell y'all you're letting your people down if you don't vote for her. that you're racist if you don't vote for her, that you're Nazi if you don't vote for her, that you don't care about your mom and your daughter and your sister if you don't vote for her. Do y'all understand how ridiculous it is to be able to raise $20 billion and then go in debt? Y'all know what you could have did with $1 billion, not $20 billion, excuse me. You raised $1 billion and then went 20 million in debt. You know what we could do with $1 billion? I feel like sometimes we lose, because these numbers get thrown out in front of us so much, we kind of lose perspective on how much $1 billion is. That's $1 billion. What is that? That's 1,000,000 1,000 times. Is that right? My math is right? That's 1,000,000 1,000 times. $1 million 1,000 times. How many families could those celebrities and those people who donated to Kamala Harris could have helped if they just donated that money? Just use that money to help them. But instead, they raise $1 billion. And it's like they tell you, like, oh, we got to raise this money to do what? To help us? No, we got to raise this money so that we can give it to her so she can help y'all. Why don't you just help us with the money that you just raised? No. It doesn't work like that. We have to give it to her. Oh, okay. And so after this election, because you've already shown the propensity to be able to raise this amount of money, you're going to do it again, right? So that we don't have to only rely on her and the government to help those people in need, because that's a lot of money. No, we're going to wait again for the next 4 years. To do what? To raise more money for the next candidate. But you could just give it to us. Nah. That's crazy talk. That's not how it works. Blew through $1 billion, ended up 20 million in debt. And you lost the popular vote and the Electoral College. You got blown out. But I was told that Kamala Harris ran a flawless campaign, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I've been told. I don't know. That's what I heard. Shout out to Sensi and Dreamer. Hello, Niko in chat. Thanks for the time and energy. You know it, man. You know it. Like I said, it's going to be a busy couple weeks. I got my mom's coming to Brazil, so I won't be able to stream at the end of the month. So I definitely had to try to get as much in as we could right now, because there's just been so much nonsense that we got to cover like this. Let me bring this up for y'all. This right here is crazy, because the audacity. And this is from Washington Post. However, as you all know, the time machine for articles is been down. It's been under attack. So this guy just, Joe, my God, basically reposted it from the Washington Post. Joe, my God, is right? Like, Joe, my God, Biden should have dropped out a little bit sooner. Maybe they would have stood a chance. I don't know. Tens of thousands of people are expected in Washington ahead of Inauguration Day in January to protest President-elect Donald Trump and policy priorities that they say will undermine rights of women, immigrants, LGBTQ plus community, and racial and religious minorities. Good God, that's like everybody. The demonstration, dubbed the People's March on Washington, is scheduled for January 18th, 2 days before the inauguration. It is being organized by leading civil rights, racial justice, and reproductive health organizations, including the Women's March and Abortion Access Now. The Women's March is the worst kind of psyop, by the way. A coalition of organizations, including the ACLU, Planned Parenthood, and National Women's Law Center. Organizers estimate 50,000 people will attend, according to the permit application. During a season when officials expect a surge of protests and celebrations from across the political spectrum as the nation's seat of power transitions from Joe Biden to Donald Trump. So, basically, you're planning your own January 6th. Okay. So, can we expect y'all to keep that same energy? I'm just asking. Because I need y'all to understand. There is the perspective that there were some people who entered the Capitol, okay? Those people were arrested, whatever, for trespassing. So we can take those people out. That isn't even the majority of people who got arrested. There were people who were arrested that day for protesting, just protesting. This is from the people who were on the ground, leftists who were on the ground that day. Okay? There are people who are still being held without trial, without a charge. They weren't given an arraignment because they were there that day in protest. Well, they were there to support, actually at that point, they were just there to support Donald Trump. These people are just out there to protest the president. Or the president-elect, rather. I just need to know, are we keeping that same energy that y'all kept that day? Like, are people getting shot in the head for being in the wrong place and being in a group, a protest group, like Ashley Babbitt was? Are we going to say that these people are election deniers or really policy deniers? Because like half the stuff they're saying, I'm like, guys, I got my problems with Trump. You don't have to make up lies about him. Why? Like, why do women keep saying that he's promised a national abortion ban? He's never said that. There are people in the Republican Party who would desire that, but Trump himself doesn't even have the power to do a national abortion ban. Roe v. Wade never granted that ability. The repeal of Roe v. Wade only sent the ability to control abortion rights back to the states. So Trump has, just like I always say, Kamala has nothing to do with that. I don't know why we keep talking about Kamala Harris as if she's gonna be the savior for women and reproductive rights. She doesn't have anything to do with it. That's not her job. It's not the job of the commander in chief. So the same goes for Trump. And even so, he didn't say he wanted a national abortion ban. I don't know why they keep saying that. I'm not saying that Trump, secondly, I'm not saying that Trump isn't racist. I'm sure he's as racist as every other rich white guy, right? Like I've always said, like, I don't know why people act like voting for like a rich, old white guy. I don't know why they would think that would be the line, or rich, old, racist white guy would be the line that people would draw in the sand as far as not voting for somebody. Like, since when? People have been voting for rich, old white guys for all, rich, old, racist white guys specifically, for almost all of the U.S. history. I don't understand why that would be the red line. It's not. But just to be clear, it wasn't the red line when they voted for the segregationists in 2020. So like, if you didn't care about the segregationists, not what he might do, I'm talking about the fuck he already did. If you didn't care about the segregationists in 2020, why are you out there protesting in 2024? Because of racial justice. Because y'all ain't give a fuck about us. Because cops is beating the hell out of us at an all-time high rate this last 4 years. But y'all didn't even know, nor did you care. Cops shooting us. Y'all didn't care. Y'all weren't out there protesting. There wasn't no George Floyd level protest. Y'all didn't care. And I guess to some degree, I'm excited to see that y'all are out there giving a fuck again. Because y'all didn't give a fuck for the last 4 years while they were sending our money to Ukraine. Shout out to everybody who's protesting for Palestine. Shout out to y'all. Because, I mean, if y'all couldn't get out for genocide and protest, I don't know what could have got y'all out there. But cool. But I'm talking about right now, the stuff that was happening at home. Y'all didn't give a shit for the last 4 years. And we even said before Trump got elected, do y'all remember that debate I had with Ben Burgess where I was literally telling everybody, I said, the problem that I have is that y'all about to go to sleep. The problem that I have is that Joe Biden is a fascism you're not allowed to fight. You're not allowed to challenge. And if you try to challenge him, they'll say you're a Trump supporter and try to end your career. They'll try to call in your credibility. And that's exactly what happened. But now that Trump is back, oh, look at y'all back outside. Yeah, we outside. Y'all see that Ninja Turtles movie? Y'all should see it if you haven't yet. Great movie. Let's read some super chats. Eric Husso, shout out to my guy. Go live on Rumble 2. YouTube is super censorious today. First of all, if that is a word, I just learned it today. I've never heard censorious, but I'm going to use that shit. But I am live on Rumble 2 and I'm live on Rockfin. Sparky, no Stefanik, no Brian Hook. Amen to that. Unfortunately, it looks like we're going to get him. Eric Husso, shit lib, January 6th, the rise of the Karens. Basically, it's probably good that Trump dismissed the notion that Pompeo and Haley won't be in his administration. Now he needs to get rid of Brian Hook before Hook populates the State Department with Pompeo and Haley clones. Yeah, 100% agree. 100% agree. We'll get to that in a little bit. What do I want to say? Oh, like this video. Make sure y'all like and share. Make sure y'all like and share. But yeah, man, now for everybody who's curious, I'm being sarcastic. We know they're not going to keep the same energy. Just let me just dispel that notion for everybody. But my point is, for those of you who are, for those of you who do not know, I was there the day before January 6th. My team at the time was there on January 6th. I had to go back home, but I was there, and I remember how we were protesting. It was forced to vote. It was during forced to vote. Actually, it was the day before. It was like the whole forced to vote situation. So on January 6th, when everything went down, I remember how many cops were outside and how they were preparing for it and how they were talking about it. And just like this protest, there were permits cleared for the protest for January 6th. There were protests. I mean, there were permits that were cleared. They did what they need to do. Once again, those people who trespass, okay, they deserve the time that they deserved, like legally speaking, but I don't know if you can even call it trespassing whenever the cops let you in. I don't know if that's trespassing anymore. At that point, it's a tour, but whatever. We'll leave that there. But what about everybody who was beat, like they had the hell beat out of them, who were being gassed outside of the Capitol? That's the part that I'm talking about. Like, are the police going to keep that same energy with the pussy hatters? You get what I'm saying? Like, because otherwise, that's just another testament to how wrapped up the police state actually is with the Democratic Party in respect to their relationship with the Republican Party. Like, are you telling me that the police state is actually more in love with the Democratic Party, more willing to help and protect the Democratic Party? Because that's what it looks like. And can you blame them? Biden gave them so much money this last 4 years. But that's what it looks like, which is kind of crazy when you really think about it, because Donald Trump was out there declaring BLM domestic terrorists. The local BLM organizations that had legitimate reasons to protest, he was calling them terrorists. Thugs, domestic terrorists. And it backfired because then the Democrats took power, and then what? They started calling them the MAGA supporters domestic terrorists, while both sides were funding the militarization of the police state. But at this moment, because this isn't the first time I've seen something like this. I was at the Women's March in New York when I thought it was going to be a legitimate march on the issues, like just discussing purely issues that need to be addressed. I genuinely believe, because that's what it was being marketed as. This is before everybody knew that the Women's March was a psyop. But I went there in person, and I will never forget this story, ladies and gentlemen. When like a cop was talking to this group of women while I was interviewing somebody, I'm like, damn, this cop is pretty chill. That's kind of weird for a protest. If you've been to a protest, a real protest, you understand exactly what I mean. So I go over to the cop and talk to him, like, hey man, what's going on? He's super relaxed. So are you here for like what? Oh, the Women's March in the city paid the NYPD to be there to protect the protesters. And I was like, what? That's not how this works. That's not how this works. When I was living in Miami, during that SOS Cuba nonsense, my friend who is Cuban, who was kind of like, she didn't really know the politics behind Cuba at the time. She just kind of like, yeah, no, one of my parents doesn't like Castro, the other one does. They're kind of like, so I just don't get involved. That's what she said. And so I was like, because I lived on Main Street, on Calle Ocho, and the protest was massive. And I said, I'm going to tell you something. You know, if you're on the right side of history, based off of which side of the protest the cops are on. So if you're at a protest and the cops is whipping your ass or shooting gas at you or shows up with SWAT gear, that means you're on the right side of history. If the cops are literally escorting you through the city, that means you're on the wrong side of history. It's that simple. It's really, really, really simple to figure out which side of history you're on. Go to a protest. If the cops beating your ass, you're on the right side of history. That's how it goes. But are we going to see the wall-to-wall coverage of January 18th? Like we saw wall-to-wall coverage of January 6th? Are we going to see Senate hearings, committee hearings, court cases? Because I'm curious, because if y'all recall, there was a protest before Trump was inaugurated last time. Antifa, which we're going to get into in a second. That's not really Antifa. There's just a bunch of white boys with masks destroying shit because they were told to and probably paid to. But y'all remember how quick that shit got dismissed? Like, they were like, yep, whatever, cool. Like, okay, but these are a bunch of people who claim to be on y'all's side and also claim to be anti-Trump that just try to destroy DC because Trump won. And y'all just like, yeah, whatever. Those are just individuals acting individually. This has nothing to do with the Democratic Party or liberals. This just means this is how bad Trump is. People want to destroy DC. And then they just left it there. And every time of that version that organization that calls themselves Antifa showed up, mainstream media was there to defend them, to cover them. But when Trump supporters showed up to do their little protests, it was like the opposite reaction. So are we just seeing another repeat of what we saw the last 4 years, which is gaslight, selective outrage, not wanting to address the real reason you lost, ignoring the working class, rebuke for the working class and what they have voted for, rebuke for the mandate the working class really, some people say gave to Trump, but I say took away from the Democrats. That's what really happened. It wasn't that they gave a mandate to Trump. They literally said, we don't freaking like y'all. We hate you. We hate what you stand for. And if you had progressive policies, you might have won. If you had universal health care, if you addressed the housing crisis, if you addressed student debt substantively and for everybody, you might have won. If you would have stopped pretending like we need to send billions of dollars to neo-Nazis in Ukraine over the course of a couple of years because of a war that we effectively started. I mean, I'm not going to get into the complexities of that, but if you know, you understand what I'm saying. We effectively started that war between Russia and Ukraine, and then we're like, we got to give them billions of dollars for a war that they have zero chance of winning, which we knew when we forced them into that situation. And then, of course, the situation with Israel, where not only are we funding a genocide, but we're also funding a fucking psychopath who is on who's on a crusade through the Middle East to achieve a greater Israel, which is causing instability in energy prices. Bruh. Stop gaslighting us. Stop gaslighting us. And if you're going to get out and protest for the right reasons. If you're going to protest fascism, that's a 24, in the US especially, bro, until further notice, that's a 24/7 job, my guy. That's not a every other 4 years. That's a every single day, every month, every year until further notice. I don't understand how we keep pretending like fascism is like a new thing in the US. Just saying. I'm gonna let y'all know. Don't expect the Dems to keep that same energy. I know it's gonna be frustrating to see, but I also want, once again, and we're gonna talk about it in a second, but I also want everybody to know, because everybody thought I was being a dick. Everybody thought they were calling me a right-wing conservative, a neo-Nazi, because I was saying back then, I said there's something weird about this Antifa, and I feel like they're about to disappear when Trump loses. I said that. And everybody thought I was crazy. I said police killings are going to go up. Fascism is going to be on an all-time high. But Antifa, for one reason or another, is about to disappear. And I'm pretty sure it's because this version of Antifa is a CIA psyop, because the CIA and the intelligence community is super unoriginal. They just take old ideas from genuine causes and organizations that existed in the past and repurpose them and co-opt them. And that's exactly what happened. Sparky said correction. Oh, on his last super chat, dismissed the notion that Pompeo and Haley would be part of his administration. Yeah, I figured that. Eric Husso, this was a class election. Elites voted Harris while the working class voted Trump. That's what happens when you abandon the working class people. Yup, 100%. And 20 million people just didn't vote again. That's a whole different conversation, right? There was 20 million people that showed up to vote for the first time ever last election during the pandemic, and then they just decided to sit out. All 20 million of them just decided to sit out this election. But we're supposed to believe that we have a super legitimate electoral system. Here's some good news for everybody. I'm sure some of y'all have already seen this. But y'all know I have a particular disdain for David Pacman. David's a racist piece of shit. He's a neoliberal. He's a gaslighter. He's like if you want to talk about a combination of the most racist, demographic you can be, David is literally that. He is a Zionist who is a white Argentinian neoliberal living in America. You can't get any more racist than that in 2024 if you didn't. I can't. It's a lot to explain, but you ain't gonna get no more. That's like the most apathetic, racist, apathetic demographic that you can get. Not only are you Argentinian and you're a white Argentinian, because boy don't look like he been there in his life. Don't look like he ever got a tan. But you a Zionist living in America, and you're rich. And you're a liberal. You can't get any more racially apathetic than that. Just saying. But after the election ended, the chickens came home to roost on some of these guys. I'll let him tell the story.
When I woke up this morning, we had lost 5,000 YouTube subscribers compared to where we were last night. Now, the first thing I thought was, is this a glitch? We've been on YouTube for 15 years or something like that. And subscribers always just go up. They just never go down. They go up. Is something wrong with my channel? Is someone attacking my channel? What's going on? So I started texting. And I texted Brian Tyler Cohen. And I texted Tyler Cohen and Brian Cohen and Brian Tyler. All of them. I texted all of them. I texted Jesse Dollemore. I texted Luke Beasley and Farron Cousins and Sam Cedar.
Well, I'm going to just say there's a lot of them names. A lot of the same type of name. I ain't going to say what it was, but there was a lot of them same type of names. Bro, I'm like, God damn, how many Cohens and Zinskis and, I ain't going to talk about that.
And every single one of our channels since last night is hemorrhaging subscribers. What is it that is going on? Here is a graphic. As you can see, subscribers just go up, 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 and they are down. It is not just YouTube subscribers. We are seeing record cancellations of paid memberships. Record cancellations. These are the people that keep the show running. Now, for a moment, I thought, if it's just YouTube, maybe YouTube is purging people who are inactive subscribers. And once a year, usually YouTube does this and you see a little decline and then numbers go back up. They're not doing it. They're not doing it. And if that were the case, we wouldn't be seeing paid membership cancellations on the website. So now I understand what is going on. It's terrifying, but it is happening. A lot of people are checking out. So my request to you today is
checking out. He thinks that a lot of people are just checking out. When people check out, ladies and gentlemen, they don't like my audience. I've had people that have needed a break from politics, so they take 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off. They don't really cancel their subscription, right? Unless they're going through some financial times, like financially hard times, and that my audience, I understand that, and usually they'll actually message me and let me know. And I respect that, and it's random when they do it. So Like, okay, it isn't something I did. It's just, it is what it is. Do you think that people checked out the day after the election where you told them with the utmost certainty that Kamala was going to win? And that she was going to win by a wide margin? And that Democrats are going to dominate and they're about to take everything back? Because you have to remember, guys, for people like Pacman, David Dole, The Humanist Report, Mike Figueredo, Sam Cedar, Tom Hartman. I mean, there's a long list. Those guys, Emma Vigilant, all of them, they've been gaslighting their audience since 2016, since the end of the Democratic primary in 2016. They got that one horribly wrong. And then they could hide behind that by saying, this is how horrible Trump is. The people who voted for him were misguided and we got it. They just were fooled the first time. That's why Hillary lost. And she was such a bad candidate. That's what in Russia. Don't forget about Russia. In Russia and Putin in Russia. Okay, cool. Fast forward. Biden manages to win a really weird election. Okay, after they gaslighted their audience again, said that they weren't going to capitulate to the Democratic establishment after Bernie was cheated once again, and he wasn't the only one. But they did. They did go back and they capitulated to the Democratic establishment once again. Then they spent the last 4 years damn near covering for Biden, only with the exception of covering the genocide when they thought that Joe Biden was still going to be the presidential nominee. The moment that Kamala became the presidential nominee, they forgot about genocide that quickly. Except for David Pacman's case, who never gave a fuck about the genocide at all. He was very clear about that. But just want y'all to know, Pacman once upon a time assured me that he can't be racist or Islamophobic or anything like that because he's a Jewish Argentinian. So just clear that up, for the record. So what makes it even worse is that you got people like Kyle Kalinske who were referring to themselves as Biden bros. And every single time Biden pretended to have done something good, which we know for the most part, they didn't really do anything good. Like, or if they did something good, it was like a Band-Aid, putting a Band-Aid on a broken dam. Like when they said, we cut child poverty in half. No, you didn't. You just gave working class people and poor people their own tax money back once or twice. I don't even think it was twice. I think it was just once. You gave them a little bit more of their tax money back on their tax returns. That's not cutting child poverty in half. They already earned that money. They made already. They made a little bit more than the poverty line because of the tax returns. And you're like, yeah, we cut child poverty in half. Like, that's a fucking lie. That's not what we mean by cutting child poverty in half. We mean giving people the opportunity to make enough money on a consistent and regular basis so that they don't have to live in constant and perpetual poverty. That's what we mean by poverty. But they knew that. They knew that. They were calling Biden's, what was it, that Inflation Reduction Act, they were calling it a victory when we all know it was the exact opposite. That's like calling the CARES Act a victory. Infrastructure is worse now than it's been. They were defending the war in Ukraine. And in cases like David Pacman, he was defending Israel, saying that genocide won't be a decisive issue. Genocide won't be a decisive problem. That won't decide the election. That won't be woo. What did I tell you? Guys, I'm gonna pat myself on the back a little bit here. How many times have I sat right in this chair, y'all? And I said specifically, and no one else had caught this yet. I said it on this show and I said it on Savage Show. That was the first time I had said it because I didn't even realize the pattern until I was doing research for a hotspot video. I said, Democrats can't win the election without Michigan. And I kept saying, and people thought I was being hyperbolic. They always gonna be hyperbolic when I say this shit. I'm like, yeah, she's not gonna win. Why? Because she's losing Michigan. Nah, I think it's that serious. Yeah, you can't. If you're a Democrat, you can't win without Michigan. That's what history has shown. And it could be, it very well might be for demographic reasons. like that translate outside of Michigan, because Michigan has very unique demographics in each part of the state. And they have like a pulse on, unfortunately, the worst problems of the country, because 9 times, out of 10, Michigan, in some parts of the state, are experiencing the worst problems of the country, whether it be Flint with the water, whether it be Detroit with crime and poverty, right? Whether it be the manufacturing industry being sent overseas. Like, if you're not going to work for the working class, Michigan, as a Democrat, Michigan will make sure you lose. And if you lose Michigan, you will lose the election. And I've said that. And people actually thought that I was being hyperbolic. In this particular case, not only did Michigan determine the outcome of the election once again, but Arabs who were pissed off that Kamala promised to continue Joe Biden's genocidal policies when it comes to Israel, they voted for Trump. These same people who actually punished Trump for how he behaved in 2016 or 2020, excuse me. Like, they punished Trump for how he acted in the Middle East for those 4 years. They punished him. And then they flipped the script and were like, we're going to vote for him. Because I know you did not just try to tell us to shut up when we were talking to you about genocide, and you're supposed to be the empath. You're supposed to be the empathetic candidate. You're supposed to be the working class candidate. You're supposed to be the candidate that represents minorities and fights for the downtrodden. That's what you said. But the moment we spoke up, you told us to shut up. Women speak up. Yeah. Black people speak up. You know, she'll say yeah, but not really. But she pretended to like us as far as it was going to get her some votes. That didn't get her enough, I guess. But other coalitions spoke up. They were at least lending an ear. But when Palestinians spoke up, well, hell, they weren't even allowed to speak, right? At the convention, at her convention, they weren't allowed to speak. And people like Pacman. I can't speak for David Dole, but I would say almost all of them, I know for a fact Pacman did, but almost all of them were saying that genocide was not going to be a deal breaker. Yep. Yes, it was. It was a deal breaker. Look, I don't know nothing about everything, but I do know a little bit about a lot. This ain't my first rodeo. I'm not a rookie in this game. And thankfully, my audience appreciates that. And even the audience that might disagree with me politically appreciate that. Because that's the difference between my audience, RBN's audience, Sav's audience, like even Jimmy Dore's audience. We all have people that actually don't agree with us on everything politically, that subscribe to us, that pay for subscriptions. Not because they agree with everything we say, but because they respect our honesty and our integrity. And they like our perspective. Even if they don't agree with the opinion, they like the perspective, they like the insight that we give, because they know it's coming from a genuine place of analysis. It's coming with objectivity. It's coming from fact-based. It's coming from an opinion based in facts, history, perspective, experience. What we know to be true, not just imaginary fucking electoral maps that show that Kamala's going to blow people out. Like, there was no, bro, if you would have said Kamala was going to barely win, okay, maybe your audience wouldn't have felt so gaslighted. But y'all weren't there. Did you see Emma Vigilante's map, bro? It was like Kamala was about to blow Trump out. Almost all of them did maps like that, but Emma Vigilante's was the worst. It was something crazy. Like, she thought that, I'm like, there was nothing showing that. I don't even believe in polls like that. Y'all know that. But whenever all the polls for the swing states were going to Trump before Biden dropped out, and they only moved a little bit to within the margin of error whenever Biden did drop out and Kamala took over, and that was only in some swing states, that should have still been a clue. Okay. Yeah, no, this ain't really about to go how we think it is. Because especially when y'all found out that Democrats were $1.7 million in early voting, like y'all were losing to Trump. That was the moment I knew it was over. When they said, yeah, Democrats are 1.7 million people behind Trump, or the Republicans rather, in early voting. That's it then. Because if Democrats only win if voters turn out, and Trump got about the same amount of votes last time. That's what's crazy. So, but like, y'all knew. They told y'all back then Trump was winning swing states. And the states that Kamala had caught up in, it was in the margin of error, which effectively means Trump won. That's what that usually means. They lost Wisconsin. You lost Michigan. You lost Wisconsin. They lost Nevada, Arizona. Georgia should have never been Biden's to begin with in 2020, but Trump took it back. North Carolina, after y'all left them, fucked over after the hurricane. What did you think was going to happen? We all knew that was coming. How did you, like, there's no way that you were covering the news for the last 4 years and were like, yeah, Kamala's about to stomp Trump. Democrats are about to run the table. Of course your fucking audience quit. Of course they left. Of course they canceled their subscriptions. You're idiots. You're dumb. Or some of y'all are purposely manipulative, but also stupid. Because that's just not a good business model. At least Trump supporters, if they're going to gaslight their audience, boy, they know how to Trump supporters know how to gaslight their audience. They are experts at that shit. They are experts at gaslighting their audience. Okay, they're not going to take anything too far, and they're not going to overextend the narrative. They're going to keep it in the box. It's a very limited hangout. This is what we're going to talk about. We're just going to focus on the good. And then when Trump does bad, they will actually acknowledge it sometimes. When he does, like, especially if he goes on his little Zionist tirade that he likes to go on at times, they will call him out on that. So they call him out just enough to look honest. And they focus on what they focus on. And they focus on enough that they have evidence for it. Like, they will present evidence for some of the sycophantic stuff they say. But y'all just gaslighted, bro. And there was no evidence. If you actually looked at the details of the statistics and everything, like, there was no evidence that this is going to go down the way that y'all thought. But not, so like, y'all gaslighted everybody for 4 years, told everybody that they were doing well when they weren't. But I guess it's what happened when you have a middle class audience, an upper middle class audience. A lot of people that managed to stay upper middle class after the pandemic, which wasn't as many as we would like, began to suffer over the last 4 years. It was slowly. And they assume that if the Democrats won again, maybe that would be their chance. And they thought that everybody was blaming the same scapegoats. They were scapegoating the same people as these liberal pundits were claiming. They thought that everybody was on the same page. And they found out, oh no, they're not blaming the same people as I'm blaming. Why is that? And why were y'all so wrong about it? Am I on the wrong team? All of a sudden they start questioning, have I been listening to the wrong motherfucker for 8 years? And now your ego comes into play because now you feel stupid. Nobody likes feeling stupid. And you damn sure don't like paying somebody else money after making you feel stupid. Because you've been talking to your friends using the information that David Pacman and David Dole and Emma Vigilant and Sam Cedar have been giving you for the last 8 years, thinking that you're the smartest person in the room. And you've actually been the dumbass that everybody makes fun of once you leave the room. Because your friends listen to Niko House and Force People Podcast and RBN and Savvy Sabs and Jimmy Dore and Glenn Greenwald. But your dumbass listen to Sam Cedar and David Dole and Dave Pacman. That's what happens. That's what happens. But I'm glad everybody's waking up because to me, that creates an opening for independent journalists who are genuine to come in and educate these people. I think they'll be more open-minded to the truth now, and now that they're leaving their neoliberal algorithm. Thank God. Sparky, thank you very much for the super chat. Millet faked being a Trump to get elected. Yeah, he's actually way worse than Trump. He's not even, I don't like Trump, but like Milei, he's actually a globalist who already snuck Argentina's gold reserves to the Bank of England, so globalists have even more leverage over Argentina. Yeah, he's horrible. He's like, I mean, you saw a lot of people do that, pretend to be like Bolsonaro kind of pretended to be Trump, but in some ways he was better than Trump. I know that sounds weird to say, but he made things for the average working class person and the small business owner out here. And there's more small business owners in Brazil than there are in the US. But he made things easier for them to do transactions. He made digital banks accessible, right? There are things that he did that I'm not really that big of a fan of, and there are things that he said that weren't really good. But like, I always tell people, I don't give a shit if you're racist. Like, that shit don't matter to me. Just don't pass racist policies. Say what the hell you want to whenever I'm not around. You're going to do it anyway. Right? Like, that's what happens. It's real life. So adults say shit about people they don't like when they're not around. Just don't pass racist policies and we good. And a lot of Brazilians are figuring out only recently, because some of the, they don't pay, a lot of Brazilians don't actually pay attention to politics, which is kind of crazy, or they only pay attention to local politics. They're not all that aware of how easy Bolsonaro actually made some things. He didn't have good opinions internationally when it comes to international politics, but Brazil doesn't affect international politics all that much. Not right now anyway. But Lula went back and put in limits, and it started to set back the Brazilian economy. So the dollar here was actually lowering in value, which means that the Brazilian economy is doing well. Once Lula got in, it started raising in value. And it's at the highest it's been since I've lived here, because the Brazilian economy is not doing as well. But Lula's out here talking about all he's going to do it's like he's doing the same shit Democrats do. He's talking about everything he's going to do for the middle class community, the working class community, for the black community here in Brazil, which makes up, Brazil has the largest black community in the world outside of Nigeria. And that is not hyperbole. That's actually a fact. And he always going live on Instagram, but he ain't really doing shit for us. And I think that Bolsonaro ran like on being Trump became kind of his own weird thing. And that's why the US came in and removed him, because he sold them a lie that he was going to be as controllable in some ways as Trump was when it comes to certain policies domestically. And he wasn't. But Milei is horrible. That man is destroying bro, he's about to destroy Argentina and probably make out like a bandit afterwards. He's going to get rich as shit. Eric Huzo, people are waking up to what fraud these people are. I bet Jimmy Due Dissidents didn't have the same issue. Yeah, I know for a fact they didn't. Or at least Jimmy. I haven't had that issue. RBN hasn't had that issue. Like, we good. We straight. We all right. This is me, Pacman, unsub. Fun fact from Sparky. Argentina outlawed slavery in the early 1800s, but instead of freeing their slaves, they sold them to Brazil. I thought you were going to say instead of freeing their slaves, they murdered all of them. But that makes sense, considering Argentina. Argentina and Brazilians don't really get along that well, interestingly enough. So when is a mass exodus? I'm assuming you want to say, when is the mass exodus beginning? The mass exodus of what? James Starks, thank you for the super sticker, my guy. Much appreciated, much appreciated. I saw somebody said that Rome is going through some stuff. I'm going to go to Rome's Twitter and see what's going on, guys. Help my guy out if you can. I don't know what he's going through yet because I've been on this live stream, but let's talk about how Mike Pompeo, really quick, we got a couple more segments we're going to cover before I get up out of here. My son got soccer practice. Mike Pompeo's out, guys. I don't know if y'all saw the news. Probably though. I mean, it kind of caught me by surprise. I just knew Pompeo was going to get in because he was kissing Trump's ass. Boy, he was kissing Trump's ass. But Donald Trump came out and said Saturday, he will not ask his former United Nations ambassador, Nikki Haley, or his former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, to serve in his incoming administration. I will not be inviting former Ambassador Haley or Secretary of State Pompeo to join the Trump administration, which is currently in formation, said Trump on Truth Social. I very much enjoyed and appreciated working with them previously and would like to thank them for their service to our country. Boy, he hit them with a fake out. Woo! That was crazy. Because I got to give him a little credit, because if you would go back to Pompeo after he basically said, in my opinion, he set Trump up for failure when it came to a lot of foreign policy matters, you would be the worst kind of dumbass, in my opinion. However, the problem is he then selected an ambassador who she's a Zionist. I don't know how to put it. She's a Zionist. She's like the worst kind of Zionist. Listen to this is
calling for
during the protests at college.
Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric.
And is it anti-Semitic rhetoric?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric, when it crosses into conduct that amounts to bullying, harassment, intimidation, that is actionable conduct, and we do take action.
So the answer is yes, that calling for the genocide of Jews violates Harvard Code of Conduct, correct?
Again, it depends on the context.
It does not depend on the context. The answer is yes, and this is why you should resign. These are unacceptable answers across the board.
Hold on. Okay, so like, first of all, if she says like it's unacceptable, that's an unacceptable answer? She's like, is it punishable? I'm kind of confused because she was like, yeah, if anti-Semitism crosses into a line of bullying and physical or verbal harassment, then like, yeah, it's punishable. And she's like, these answers are unacceptable. That's why you should resign. What? I just told you, I gave you, not because she agreed with her to some degree, right? She wanted to be very specific, like, because y'all can call anything anti-Semitism, just like Democrats call anything racism or sexism. But what she was doing was detailing exactly what it would look like in a situation where anti-Semitism would be taken seriously and there would be actionable punitive measures taken against it. And she was like, unacceptable. It's like she was waiting to say that shit. It was at the bottom of her paper. She had to highlight it. And it's like she didn't even care what the answer was going to be. She was just ready to say that because her job was to go there and do what? Get that Harvard president fired. This is also a tweet from her from this past year. I'm proud to stand by our most precious ally, Israel, and today I am honored to serve on the official escort committee for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at his historic joint address. I recently met with Netanyahu last May when I traveled to Israel to deliver an address in Knesset. House Republicans will never waver in our ironclad support of Israel as they continue to fight for their very existence. Trump offers Elise Stefanik, ambassador to the United Nations, to post after New York allies' aggressive defense of his policies. Now, some people would make the argument that Stefanik was actually picked not because of her pro-Israel stance. This is what some people would say. I don't agree with that. I believe that she was part of the reason she was chosen. But some people would argue that it's actually because of her anti-Ukraine war stance. She's actually very much so anti-Ukrainian war. She's against sending more aid to Ukraine. Obviously, this is a consistent thing we see amongst a lot of Trump supporters. The Zionist ones, they're somehow anti-Ukrainian war, but they're pro-genocide. And their reasons for being anti-Ukrainian war actually should apply in the situation where we're giving, like the logic should apply to Israel, but it doesn't cross over because, Zionists pay better than Ukrainians, right? Israel writes checks, Ukrainians only cash them. I guess that's the difference, for being honest. Also, you can be Epstein, so there's that. For being real. But why is it that, have y'all noticed this pattern that we've seen with U.S. ambassadors? They pick the dumbest motherfuckers they can find to be U.S. ambassadors. Like, you only have two requirements to be a U.S. ambassador. Be an idiot and be a shield for Israel. Because basically, when you go to the U.S. as an ambassador, or excuse me, when you represent the United States as an ambassador, you're really only representing Israel's interests by proxy. Like that's kind of your whole job. That's basically it. You gotta remember, Nikki Haley was a U.S. ambassador. Everybody kind of forgets that, but that happened. Madeleine Albright was a U.S. ambassador. Like, she's an idiot. Haley is probably dumber than Albright. Nikki Haley is a freaking moron. I mean, dog. I remember when she tried to connect Hamas's attack on Israel with Putin's birthday. Y'all, like that's a real fucking thing. That actually happened during the presidential election. That's one of the dumbest people I've ever seen before in my life. Like, she got that pageant beauty queen energy, and it's ironic because for those of you who don't know, Nikki Haley changed her name and started behaving as white as humanly possible because when her family moved to South Carolina, she wanted to participate in a beauty pageant. She was not allowed to because at the time, South Carolina, right? Beauty pageants were actually segregated. You could only participate if you were white or if you were black because they had their own separate, but they didn't have beauty pageants for Indians. So she wasn't allowed to participate or win anything. So she made a choice, So in a lot of ways, she's not that much different than Kamala. She's like how Kamala kind of pretends to be black. Nikki pretends to be white, but both of them are Indian. And they hate working class people. They're idiots. But in all seriousness, so this is my problem. Like, it's great that Pompeo is out. It's also great that Trump announced that he talked to Zelensky and told him, yeah, that money that y'all getting, that's out. I'm letting you know now. That's what he said. That's great. But then you can't undercut it by picking this dumb bitch. You can't and he gave out this whole mass, he did this speech about how important the First Amendment is. Surprisingly enough, like the View isn't being kicked off the air. Rachel Maddow isn't being taken off the air, like, which we knew wasn't going to happen. But like they were alleging this was a possibility under Trump, which we knew wasn't going to happen. But like he actually came out and reaffirmed the importance of freedom of speech and the First Amendment and protecting it, all that. But when you do stuff like that, it's hard to be happy and have confidence going forward when you do something like nominate Stefanik to be the U.S. ambassador. I mean, yeah, she probably doesn't really have that much power, but it's important. And in the context of Israel and Palestine, in the context of Syria, in the context of potential war with Iran, in the context of Iraq, in the context of even whatever NATO got going on, because we know, even though the U.S. ambassador doesn't represent us in NATO, but I mean, in international relations, the U.S. ambassador still represents us and NATO's interests, and will conduct themselves as such. Like, it's horrible. Don't do that. Like when you nominate J.D. Vance, it's kind of hard for us to believe that you're anti-globalist because J.D. Vance looks like he just a globalist piece of shit. It looks like that's all he does is do what globalists tell him to do. That's how he got rich. That man Peter Thiel was literally J.D. Vance's sugar daddy. That's how J.D. Vance got rich. Sparky, Trump needs to get rid of Brian Hook before Brian Hook populates the upcoming State Department with Pompeo and Haley clones. Yup. You think it'll happen? I don't know. Trump might as well have picked Haley if he picked Stefanik. I'm assuming that's what you meant. Maybe the U.S. should pick people with diplomatic skills for diplomats. Just saying. That's what I'm telling you. That's what I be so confused about. I'm like, bro, we have we picked the diplomat that actually understands the concept of diplomacy like ever in my lifetime? I don't think we've ever done that. Listen, and so that's why I will only disagree with you maybe with the Nikki Haley thing, because at least I guess Stefanik perhaps would be somewhat willing to work with Russia's representatives if Trump tells her to, because she's been a Trump ally for a long time. Like, she will not go against Trump. So I almost wonder if Trump tells her, I don't know what's going to happen with Israel. I don't know. I wish I could tell y'all. I don't believe he'll continue the same policies as Biden because he's just not the type of person that would do it. He don't want nothing from Biden's campaign to wash away his legacy, or Biden's administration to wash away his legacy on an issue so massive. However, I don't know what's going to happen. But if Trump tells her, like, it is what's going to happen with Israel, and Netanyahu can kiss my ass, so all that ass kissing you was doing with Netanyahu, that's done. If Trump tells her that, I think that she's just going to have to go with it, because she just has never openly fought with Trump. J.D. Vance, different story. J.D. Vance has openly fought against Trump. Openly been anti-Putin. Openly been pro-Netanyahu without challenge. So we'll see. But like I said, it's hard to get excited, man. I'm like, damn, man, he's not doing so bad already. Okay, cool. And then you do this Stefanik shit. Just like people were like, okay, let's see what he does for vice president. Okay, all right. Maybe he gonna do some. Nope. JD Vance, damn it. It's hard, bro. It's hard for people to cheer for you whenever you're doing shit like that. Just saying. Y'all gotta watch this video about Kamala. We're gonna probably end on this one because I gotta hurry up, take my son in practice. And I need y'all to see this. This influencer. His name is Keith Boygan. I can't remember who he worked for. He worked for somebody. He worked for a presidency. President, excuse me. And this is his logic for why Kamala lost. And I just got to show y'all because it's, once again, they showing they don't get it. They don't fucking get it. And we're going to debunk this shit piece by piece.
The defining story of the 2024 election is the defining story of American history. Americans have consistently chosen to preserve white supremacy over democracy. But what happens after each election is that we obsess over tiny demographics.
So I want to be very clear about something. White supremacy is real. I'm not going to pretend like it's not. I just want to be clear about that. Now, I will also be clear when I say the majority of Americans are not white supremacists. However, there is a white supremacist system that is in place that benefits white supremacy because it is a system that is centuries in the making and it is very complex. And you would have to take some advantages away from some individuals who benefit from it in order to make sure that there's equity of opportunity for those who have been punished and oppressed by it. So let me just go ahead and say that before I could go to breaking this motherfucker down.
Groups that can sometimes tilt an election on the margins, but we allow the huge majority of white voters to escape accountability for their ongoing efforts to protect white privilege at all costs, as long as they can deflect to a semi-plausible, non-racial explanation for their action. It's the economy, stupid. No, it's white supremacy.
Question, real quick. Black people aren't affected by the economy? Black people aren't affected by the economy, guys? Also, once again, because talk about protecting white supremacy, was it protecting? Because I do believe when Biden won, it was protecting white supremacy. But it wasn't on behalf of the Republicans. It was white liberals protecting a white segregationist sex pest who failed his way to the top after he had to drop out of multiple races for plagiarizing speeches, for doing so horribly. Y'all don't even remember he ran in some of them fucking primaries. It wasn't protecting white supremacy when Joe Biden won. When Joe Biden was able to skip to his loo through the primaries after avoiding accountability on a national and international scale. It wasn't protecting white supremacy when Obama was out there campaigning and Clyburn was out there campaigning for a literal segregationist. And then white liberals were telling minorities what we should and shouldn't do with our votes and how we should ignore the segregation. When Ben Burtis sat in front of me during our fucking debate and tried to tell me Biden would be better on racial issues after I'm telling him what Biden has already done. I'm not talking about what he would do, what he possibly could do. I'm telling you what Trump has done versus Biden, what Biden has done. And Biden fucking worked with segregationists to pass segregationist policies. Was it protecting white supremacy then? Or is it only because Trump won, now the majority of Americans are mostly concerned with protecting white supremacy? Come on. If you're going to apply the logic, let's apply it consistently. That's all I'm saying. So that's already out the window. If you weren't making this argument in 2020, whenever liberals like yourself were out there voting for Joe Biden, and black people, too many of them, were out there voting for a segregationist, a little segregationist, you can't make that argument right now. Because I would make the argument that white liberals voted for Biden in an attempt to protect their what they've gained from white supremacy and their personal white privilege as being liberal white people in the United States, basically being covert racist. And they bullied and lied and manipulated black people and other minorities and marginalized groups into voting for a segregationist, knowing that he would be worse for them because they were benefiting from white supremacy and they wanted it to continue. And you can use the cover of Biden and his love from the Democratic Party elite to achieve that goal. But whatever.
In 1776, when Jefferson wrote that all men are created equal, 41 of the 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence enslaved black people. From the very beginning, they chose white supremacy over democracy.
That part's true, but I don't know what that has to do with everybody voting for whatever. Okay, let's continue.
1988, when the Constitution was ratified, the framers counted enslaved black people as 3/5 of a person.
That is okay. That argument is fallacious, and it's always presented in a way that doesn't actually reflect the history. The reason at that time that the slaves were being presented as 3/5 of a person was because it was the slave owners, okay, that were trying to use the slaves to get more representation in the government. They were trying to use the slaves who really couldn't vote to get more votes, to get more representation so they could continue to perpetuate and benefit from slavery. That was what that was about. I don't know how that got lost in the sauce. I mean, yeah, it's not cool to be 3/5 of a person, but our vote was 0/5. So it's not like, you get what I'm saying? Like the 3/5 shit was because slavery, it was because the people who were doing the fucked up shit wanted to use us to boost the representation without giving us a vote, which would have negatively impacted us. And this is why you can't get your news from everybody, guys. I'm going to keep it a band with you. These people just be saying shit without knowing shit.
They chose white supremacy over democracy.
No. I mean, yeah, the people who wanted to use slaves to preserve slavery without giving us a vote or representation, yeah, that's white supremacy over democracy. But the 3/5 shit was to make sure that we could at least have a chance, that black people and slaves could have a chance and not be used in the games of the Confederacy.
1820 and 1850, when Maine and California entered the Union as free states, Congress crafted compromises to preserve the balance of power with slave states. In 1858, when Lincoln ran for...
Yeah, we know. What does that do with Trump, y'all? This video went viral, y'all. Look, this is 240. Look, the fuck is he talking about? What does this have to do with Trump?
Senate, he expressed his opposition to racial equality and voting rights for black people. I'm in favor of having the superior position assigned to the white race, he declared. In 1860, despite Lincoln's promise not to rock the...
Well, yeah, in case you didn't know, he wasn't actually against slavery. That didn't come till later. Lincoln, I'm talking about. But once again, nothing to do with Trump, nothing to do with the economy over the last 4 to 8 years, nothing to do with the genocide, nada.
Racial apple cart. 11 southern states seceded from the Union when he was elected president and launched a bloody civil war that killed hundreds of thousands of Americans so they could protect slavery. In 1865, when Lincoln finally announced he would support limited voting rights for Black Union soldiers and very intelligent Black people, John Wilkes Booth, standing in the audience of the White House, vowed that it would be Lincoln's last speech. 4 days later, Lincoln was assassinated. In the Reconstruction era from 1860.
Bro, this man is not going on here and giving a PBS Schoolhouse Rock ass history lesson and trying to say that that's how he knows that everybody chose white supremacy with both the electoral and the popular vote. I know that's not what's happening. Yeah, that is what's happening. So we just go, y'all get the point. So let's go ahead. I already explained to y'all just the logic that his logic don't make sense on its face if we're just going to talk about what the Democrats did to get a segregationist elected last election. Maybe it makes sense in a way that doesn't really favor him. Like, it makes sense like, yeah, okay. So there are Americans that would preserve white supremacy, but it looks like they're playing for your team too. So maybe in that particular instance, that's what you're trying to say. But that's not what you're saying. You're saying that somehow a vote for Trump is different than a vote for Biden, and that somehow a vote for Trump is more racist than a vote for Biden. Doesn't make any sense. Look, this is the demographics of this election. White men, 39% to Harris, 60% to Trump. Kind of expected. Black men, 74% to Harris, 24% to Trump. Okay. Latino men, damn near 50-50. 50% to Harris, 47% to Trump. White women, 46% to Harris, 53% to Trump. Black women, 89% to Harris, 9% to Trump. Latino women, 60% to Harris, 38% to Trump. Many people might think it was the white men or the white women or even the black men who let Harris down. I don't know. I don't know where the Arabs are in this situation, but that was kind of a big deal. I guess they put them with white people. I don't know. But what? Nobody ever talking about this black women part right here. 89% to Harris. Question. Why hasn't anyone talked about the fact that black women let black women down? Because for Obama, and Hillary Clinton, 94% of black women voters supported Hillary in 2016. 96% of black women voted for Barack Obama in 2008 and in 2012. Which provided the margin he needed to win 2 presidential terms. Black women right here. Yeah. Even for Joe Biden, 90% of black women voted for Joe Biden. But 89%? Yeah, 89%, yeah. 89% voted for Kamala Harris. You can round up to 90%, but if you're the black woman running for president and you're tied with Joe Biden, you're doing worst. And we've been told that it's black men that are to blame, Latino men that are to blame, white women, white men, Arabs. But black women, y'all didn't come out for y'all first black female candidate. What's up with that? Oh, what happened to the black women that voted 95% for Obama? That sat out or voted for Trump or voted in another direction this election? They voted for white supremacy too? Is that what you're saying? Did they choose white supremacy this time around? And did they choose white supremacy the last election? because there's a percentage point difference between how many of them voted for Biden versus how many of them voted for Kamala. So did they choose supremacy both times? Out of curiosity. White people are non-monolithic. There's some, like the majority of the country is white, so it's hard to tell what their motives are. Really, it really is. But if we're going to generalize about the entirety of the population, then we got to get into the specifics of how you can basically back up your talking point about the generalization. Because, like I said from that article, ladies and gentlemen, the black women gave Barack Obama the margin that he needed to win those two terms. Black men voted for him at like 95%. Obviously, they voted for Barack Obama at 95%. I don't even think it was close to that this time around. Let me check. Yeah, black men voted for Harris at 74%. And it wasn't particularly higher for Biden. Black men have been leaving the Democratic Party for a while now. So black men are also choosing white supremacy at a higher rate, and black women and Hispanic people are 50-50. Now, to be fair, there are racial breakdowns within the Hispanic community that have to be accounted for. I agree. But 50-50, bro, that's kind of crazy. I don't believe that every Hispanic person, I don't believe that even 10% of that 50% that voted for Trump are choosing white supremacy. I think that they just tired of the shit that's going on at their borders. It's chaos. I don't think Trump will make it better. I think that the establishment profits off of the chaos at the borders. So I just want to be clear about that. However, they want something different. They're like, this can't continue. Then you got Cubans in Florida. We don't really, those are Cubans in Florida. They own people. But the Texas Latinos, you got to think about where the majority of Latinos are at. Texas Latinos haven't flipped Texas in, I can't think of how long. In California, they ain't going to do shit. It's California. In New York, liberal Latinos don't change the outcome of the election. They might change it in Georgia. The Latinos in Georgia might change the election. They're usually more conservative, though. But there's not a large enough population, in my opinion, still, as somebody who's frequented Georgia, there's not a large enough population to change the outcome there. I don't even know how Latinos are getting blamed when they're all living in areas where their votes, for the most part, because of the overall demographics, don't change anything. Not saying that their votes couldn't change anything. If every Latino in California decided to become a Republican, I guess, but that's not happening. If every Latino in Texas and a lot of white people became Democrats, then I guess if all the Cubans in Florida suddenly became black and started, you know what I'm saying? I guess then, but that's not what happens. So, what? The people who made the difference in this election were Arabs who voted against a genocide that we could argue is driven largely by white supremacy, and black women. Black women. Black women. The same black women that gave Barack Obama the victory snatched victory out of the jaws of defeat from Kamala Harris. So are those black women? Are those black women voting for white supremacy? Or are they just tired of being fucking gaslighted? This is the problem with the Democratic Party, ladies and gentlemen. It's this. You did a whole Schoolhouse Rock video talking about history of slavery. Bro, we know most of us here know our history. We know the history of the United States. We know about slavery. We know about it. Okay, so yeah, white supremacy is a thing in Western countries. Okay, next. Explain to me how that was the key factor in this election. Because it would be even, listen, y'all, it could even be different if all of a sudden, if Trump never won 2016 and lost 2020 and then won, maybe we could have that conversation. But you're talking about a guy who won in 2016, lost in 2020, and now that loss is kind of looking a little bit suspect when we talk about those 20 million voters that showed up out of nowhere for the Democrats for the first time ever and then disappeared and never came back to even vote in legislative elections. But like you won in 2016, you lost, and then you won again. So like didn't care about white supremacy. Then people did care, they were, so 2016, they were protecting white supremacy, and then they just decided we're good. White supremacy is okay for the time being, and then they decide to vote for it again. I'm confused. Once again, I fully acknowledge the reality of white supremacy. That's how Joe Biden failed his way to the top, ladies and gentlemen. Like, don't get it twisted. I'm fully aware of how white supremacy works. I'm just not fucking blinded when it comes to to team politics. White supremacy is how Joe Biden fails his way into the presidency while everyone protects him. White supremacy is how Bill Clinton can still stand in front of the Democratic Party after everybody knows he's on the Epstein list and be one of the best fundraisers still for the party and get invited to speak at conventions. White supremacy is how all these black hip hop artists and R&B artists can come out and call out Harvey Weinstein and no one does anything about it until like a white woman finally comes out and says something. And that was like well after. Hell, white supremacy is how Diddy got away with it for so long because he had a white guy who was funding his whole operation. And if you're protected by one of those, it is what it is. Right? That's how it goes. That's white supremacy. I'm aware of the dangers of it. But I will not ignore everything that I've seen, everything that I've heard from voters, not TikTok influencers, not Twitter bots, not The View, not Joanne Reed, not Van Jones, people on the ground, people in my family, people that I talk to every day, people that have to fill their tanks up every week, people that have to pay their energy bill every month, people that have to commute back and forth to work, people that have to pay for their kids, people that can't budget properly because their grocery bill is fluctuating in ways that they've never seen before while their paycheck is not fluctuating, if you catch my drift. I listen to them. And most of my friends happen to be minorities. And they were all like, look, a lot of them didn't say they were going to vote for Trump, but they're like, I ain't voting for that shit again. And they didn't know who they were going to vote for or if they were even going to vote at the top of the ticket. A lot of them just voted for local elections and that was it. That's all. So, what we talking about? Is it really white supremacy or did the working class tell the Democratic Party en masse, we hate you? And maybe 10%, 5% was about like, yeah, we don't want her. Maybe, I guess, it could have been some racist shit. Maybe. But do you think that was the number one reason that stopped Kamala? You really think racism was the number one reason that stopped Kamala from winning? I don't think so. Because, boy, Obama sold the hell out of his dream. Obama, bro, but a guy named Barack Hussein Obama busted the whitest white guy's ass in 2008. Busted his ass and carried the Democratic Party to a damn filibuster-proof Senate and the House in the House of Representatives en route to busting his ass. White supremacy It disappeared for 2008 and just came. Like, you get what I'm saying, y'all? If you're gonna make a claim like that, you got to be able to back some shit up. You got to be able to back that shit up, because once again, white supremacy exists, had nothing to do with Kamala losing. Kamala lost because she sucked, because the Democrats sucked, because they cheated during their primary and she was never tested. She was not a good candidate. She was not charismatic. She was hiding from the cameras. She blew through $1 billion. Her husband didn't help. Mr. Most Influential Zionist in the world. How that shit going for you? The news and the media didn't help because they didn't want to hold her accountable. And while they were simultaneously gaslighting her would have been voter base. The liberals and independent media didn't help because they were busy gaslighting. But hey, keep up the grift, I guess. Keep it up. Keep telling everybody it's white supremacy, not the working class. Trust me, guys, when it's white supremacy, I'll tell you. I'm going to be the first one to tell you. You know, I ain't got no problem telling you when it's white supremacy. If it's racism, I'll be the first one to tell you. But y'all know me, I hate more than anything when someone tries to weaponize racism, which is a genuine problem, that appears in rears its ugly head in ways that we don't always expect, and it isn't explicit usually. I hate when somebody weaponizes that real problem that we have and then turn around and be like, yeah, man, so who we gonna blame for us being shit? Let's blame racism. Yeah, that's it. Who we gonna blame for Hillary Clinton losing? Let's blame sexism. That's it. Who we gonna blame for Donald Trump being so popular? Let's blame racism. Yeah, that's it. I promise you, Arabs in Michigan did not vote for Trump because of white supremacy. In fact, you can make an argument that it was opposite of that. They were so pissed off at the white supremacy being perpetuated by Israel, being supported by Kamala and Biden, that they were like, yeah, fuck y'all. I'm gonna show you how we gonna do y'all. We're not gonna reward y'all, I'll tell you that. That's what we're not gonna do. Anyway, let's get up out of here, y'all. Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of For the People podcast. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you share this video. Support the channel by becoming a premium member. You can also support us on Rockfin. You can support us by becoming a Patreon member as well. You can follow us on Twitter at Real Niko House, on Instagram at Real Niko House, and on TikTok at Real Niko House. And don't forget to follow Hotspot too, where we cover all the breaking news of that day and that week. And me and Nick put out videos for the most part every single day except for the weekends. Go check us out there. Y'all gonna like my video today, I promise you. Speaking of white supremacy. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.